For joining this small business webinar. This is a monthly, just a 30-minute quick webinar that is targeted toward businesses in Montana. Today we have with us Deb McGregor. Well, let me first back up and say this: the sponsors of the webinar today are MSU Extension, the Small Business Development Centers, the SBA, University of Montana, and Great Falls Development Alliance. And my name is Rich Gannon. I'm a small business advisor based out of Great Falls. And thanks to Joel at MSU for setting this up for us. And presenting today will be my colleague, Deb McGregor. She's a small business advisor based in Great Falls as well. And she is going to be presenting on navigating stress levels for small business owners. So really excited to see this today. And so with that, Deb, I'm going to turn it over to you. And if anybody has questions, I think it's okay, Deb, if they, is it okay if they interrupt, or you want them to just hold their questions?
Yeah,
till
absolutely. Okay. Interrupt away.
All right. And I will be monitoring the chat as well. So with that, Deb, go ahead.
Okay. Sounds great. Thanks, Rich. And hello, everyone. And thanks to those who are able to be on the camera. I was telling when we first started out, it's like it kind of reduces my stress when I can see people, except that now I have full screen slides. So that's sort of impacting that a little bit. Today, I am just really excited to share a little bit about who I am and maybe even navigating my own stress journey. And because for me, stress, the bottom line is stress is a part of all of our lives. And there's definitely a time in my life where my stress levels were so off the charts that like I was not even living life. And I realized that if I did not start to get some of those stress levels under control, I could not live a life of joy that I wanted to live. And so I'm going to share a little bit about that journey because I do believe that our personal lives intertwine with our business lives. And if we've gotten stress in one area, it tends to sort of go into the other area. Even when we don't think it is, it's usually seeping out into those areas. And I just have to tell you, I think it's very interesting that we're doing this presentation this week. I feel like my stress levels have been a little bit over my line this week, and had to just really regroup yesterday to kind of get those stress levels back to normal. And we'll talk a little bit about kind of what a stress horseshoe can look like as we go through this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a snapshot of stress. We're going to talk about the symptoms of stress. We are going to talk about some strategies that you can put into place, and then kind of a little bit specifically into business, although again, a lot of this stuff is the same for both of them. And we're going to help you get a little bit to an action plan. Now, I recognize we don't have a long time together, so some of these things may feel like I'm going through them fairly rapidly. I think, Rich, did they get a copy of this presentation?
So we'll post a copy of your slide deck on the MSU website along with a recording of this event. So I'll send out a follow-up email with that link so everybody can go to that site and download it.
Okay, super. So if you missed something today, don't worry. You can always go back and look at the slides. And of course, my gosh, you can always reach out to me as well. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So the first thing I want to invite you to do is grab a sheet of paper, grab a pen, and we're going to just take a super quick snapshot right now. The first thing I want you to do is rate your level of stress right now in this moment on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is like, it is so bad right now, you just can't even imagine, right? And you can, I guess, put 100 if it's even worse than that. 1 is like, yeah, I'm just not really feeling too much stress right now. It's just, bleh. I have a feeling most of us don't have a 1. So that's question number 1 to jot down. The second thing is I want to invite you to write down what part of owning a business causes you the most stress. And this really is different for everybody. I will tell you, for me personally, the thing that stresses me out about my own business is that it's the paperwork. I hate doing the paperwork. And my next thing would probably be all the technology. Like, for example, today I don't have this other display monitor thing going, which is why Rich is monitoring the chat comments and I'm not monitoring them. So those for me, those are the 2. I love being with people. I love speaking in front of people. Like, this is not an issue. That for most people is probably one of the most stressful things. So for each of us, what activates that stress is going to be something different. Okay. So jot that down. We want you to have awareness around what part of owning the business causes you the most stress. And then our third question, what impact is stress having on your life? because again, this impact is going to be different for everyone. For some people, it shows up physically. For some, it's more of the mental, emotional kind of thing. For some, it can be spiritual. But we all have something or a way that stress is going to impact us. So go ahead and jot down, what are you noticing about that? By the way, if you're having a hard time answering this question, just ask people around you, because they will be able to probably tell you before you even know yourself what impact that stress is having on you. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one is that when we are in a stress activated state, we are sometimes not even aware of how high our stress level is. The people around us are. And the people that care about you and love you will tell you it in a nice, gentle, loving way instead of telling you in a mean way. And also, when we are in a stress activated state, literally it is because of the way the amygdala works in the brain. So sometimes we truly don't know. So if you are not aware, please go out and ask the people around you, like, what impact do you see the stress having on me right now? I'm really blessed to have a lot of people in my life who care about me enough to let me know when maybe I need a little check-in with myself, and what kind of support that might look like. So I'm just sort of curious, and feel free to jot it in the chat, or if you want to, go off and mute. I'm curious if you've already had an insight, just even going through those 3 questions. And I will also let you know that those 3 questions are really designed to build awareness. Without awareness, it's hard to even navigate the stress, because if we aren't even aware of the impact stress is having on us, how do we even know that we need to change something, right? We sort of know something might be off, but we can't necessarily start articulating what it is. The more we can articulate what is causing that stress and what that looks like, the more we can actually do something about it. The other reason I like the light bulb is, as you're going through the rest of the presentation, be looking for light bulb moments. Be looking for those things that you're just like, oh, I never even thought about that. That's so cool. So before I put us to the next slide, I want to show you my Goldilocks curve, and hopefully this is coming out okay. You can draw one of these for yourself if you want. And this is really designed, it does kind of look like a horseshoe, but you'll see if you go from the left over to the right, I have too little. On the right, I have too much. And then in the middle, I have the just right. We all, every single day, are looking for what the just right amount of stress is. And each day that's going to change. There's a lot of reasons it changes. Number one, what we're actually doing in the day. But secondly, if we've had better rest, if we're eating properly, we're exercising, we are able to navigate that stress more effectively. So here's what's fascinating about the brain. When we have too little or too much stress, it actually shows up the same. If we were doing an hour-long course, I would have you brainstorming. But this can look like brain fog. It can look like overwhelm. It can look like boredom. It can look like shutdown. There are a lot of different things. And the reason that it shows up the same in the brain is actually around the brain chemicals that are at work. And so, like, if we've got too much norepinephrine going on in the system, or we don't have enough balance with dopamine, or we've got cortisol going through the roof, all of those things affect the way that we respond to stress. And the challenge becomes, if we are not at the just right amount, it can really go wacky. And so if we were walking through, like, we can actually take a look at, okay, where am I right now on the stress curve? And if I'm somewhere like in the too much, okay, as we're going through the next things that I'm going to show you, what are some of those things that could actually move me to the just right amount? And this is where our own awareness is absolutely essential and critical. So let's talk about some of those symptoms and what you kind of notice. And feel free to smile with me, because I'm pretty sure at any given time we've all gone through some of this. I don't know about any of you, but when I get way over, I just want to hide under the covers. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just like, leave me alone and let me just hide under the covers, because somehow, it's safer under the covers, right? Another one is, it can feel like, oh my gosh, it's like a crowd. I can't even see people anymore. and everything's just becoming a blur. That can be a frequent stress response. You'll hear these type of things. I'm overwhelmed. I can't think straight. What should I do next? I'm paralyzed with fear. I'm spinning my wheels, biting nails. When I see people, there's usually some kind of stress response there as well. You'll see other things that people tend to do. Another thing I do is my leg starts going, and I like should be playing a bass drum or something when that starts happening. Sometimes it's that proverbial hamster wheel. The stress levels get so high, everything just keeps going, 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 going. And like, we don't even know how to get off of the hamster wheel anymore because we've literally gotten ourselves into a max, just a stress cycle. A lot of people, that stress response can look like headaches, migraines. You'll see people that will often start having and stomach, like stomach can be another thing too, like nervous stomach, something that we hear about a lot. I get this thing, if anybody watches me close enough, it can either be from not drinking enough water or stress. My eye starts twitching. I know one of my first indicators, because I drink a lot of water, is usually a stress. When my eye starts twitching, I know I am over my stress line. So here are just a couple of the common things that we notice and broken down into the body, mind, emotions, and behaviors. And I would really invite you to look at this and notice what some of the things are that you may encounter in your own life, and what you notice showing up. I really want to speak a little bit with the body. You can see where that manifestation is in the body, but I really want some of you to take a quick look at this behavioral thing. When sometimes with stress, we actually notice the behavior before we actually put the connection to, oh, I must be super stressed out. And so a lot of times you'll see people are super stressed out. Like when we say accident prone, like tend to trip more, or they bump into things, right? It can actually be symptomatic of stress. Some people lose their appetite. Some people can't eat enough food, right? It doesn't, it's like, I can't eat anything at all, or, oh my gosh, like, where is the thing of ice cream, the gallon of ice cream? Loss of sex drive can be one. For some people, it's actually just the opposite. It goes into overdrive. Drinking more can also be super, because what's really happening is people are trying to calm their brain down because the brain is just whatever. And so, but what we all know is that is a temporary thing, right? Because then the next thing is we get anxiety, and then that's a whole nother disaster going on. Insomnia, or it's like either I'm not sleeping at all, or I'm just so, it's like I literally have put my body, I have just put too much adrenaline in there. And then all of a sudden the dump comes down after the adrenaline rush. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even do anything. I think it's really important to look at these emotions. Like all of a sudden, it's like I'm not even confident anymore. I get irritable. I can be depressed. Like all of these things. Alienation is a big one too. I know for myself, when I just get to that point, it's like part of what I'm telling myself is I don't think anybody should be around me right now because I might completely lose it on them. And also, it's also about that isolation of just I just need to isolate right now. So in some ways, there may be a temporary, it could be serving, and also it can go too far to where all of a sudden I'm not associating with anybody anymore, right? And then of course the mind, we know, I think we all know about this. I would love if you are comfortable, go ahead and share in the comments, where do you notice the stress manifesting for you? What, as you look around this wheel, what are the things that you notice? And so now let's talk about the impact that this may have on a business. If I'm running a business and all of a sudden my stress levels get too high, let's take the body. If I've got headaches and they go into migraines, I'm probably going to have a hard time getting through my shift. If I'm completely fatigued, I'm going to have a hard time doing it. If I'm in my mind and I cannot make decisions, I'm getting super negative, or I'm making decisions too fast, or I'm worrying all the time, how effective am I as a business owner, right? And then when I look at some of these behaviors, like if I'm going out drinking too much, maybe not wanting to get up the next day and go to work, right? Those, or if I'm not getting enough sleep, I can't even think well, right? Where we notice this a lot, especially in that COVID, coming out of COVID, the irritability in a lot of business owners. What I don't think people necessarily realize is that a lot of that was because people had just been driving, driving, driving to keep moving forward. And then the problem was that all of a sudden, they notice that the stress is there, and now we're irritable, right? So there's actually a huge stress connection to that, and apathy. So we also went through a time period of this following COVID. Like, do you remember when there was a time period where everybody was helping everybody out and we're all just trying to get through this together? Then all of a sudden it turned the corner, right? then it was like, I'm not even apathetic for you. Like, I have no empathy for you. We actually, I think, went through this stage. We could probably coin a term around it where it was like people just didn't have any empathy for anybody anymore. It was just kind of everybody kind of got this apathetic behavior. Not going to matter what I'm going to do. So that could be a whole nother conversation. So, and Rich, if anybody does put anything, feel free to unmute and share what people would be putting in there. So now
Yeah,
we're going to get,
we
oh
do
yeah, go
have
ahead.
some
Okay, go
comments
ahead.
in there. And yeah, I Twitch has mentioned lack of sleep, and geez, Aaron, his stress in COVID, he had a small stroke from it. So,
Oh,
ouch.
wow.
So I hope you're okay
Yeah.
from that, Aaron. Hope you've
Yeah,
recovered.
Aaron, yeah. And we had a chance to chat a little bit before. So those are extremes, right? Those are the extreme. And this is why it is so important that we get on top of this navigating stress, right? Because stress is not going to go away. We will always have a certain amount. And again, coming back to this, the just right amount thing, right? Making sure that we have the just right amount is so, so critical for all of us. And I think we're kind of in an interesting time right now. Obviously, I don't know about anybody else, but raise your hand if you felt like going into this last election was just, oh my gosh, the amount of ads, the amount of this, the negative stuff that was just at every level of everything. And I don't know about everybody. I noticed yesterday, it just felt like there was kind of a everybody was breathing. And regardless of where you were at on a political spectrum, I think part of that breathing was also just like, it's just we don't have to listen to them anymore. You know, I try to watch a TV show and it's like not being inundated. So thanks for that input. Any more on that, Rich, or should I keep rolling?
No, that's it, I think.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, by the way, for being part of it and putting stuff in the chat. So we're going to talk about some strategies, and you will notice as I go through some of these strategies, they are just as much for your personal well-being as your business well-being, and that's because we are people first. We are human beings and also human, like what we get caught up sometimes is the human doing, but we are human beings first. If we don't take care of the being, we are no good as a business owner. We're no good as in play. We have to take care of the who we are as a person first. And by the way, I just want everybody to know as I'm going through this presentation, I am talking to myself just as much as I'm talking to you, because even though I teach this stuff all the time, like I have to be reminded, right? I got in a stress cycle this week and I know I did, right? And so as we're going through this, it's just that reminder that even as much as we try to do these things, it's easy for anybody to get off the course. The good news is we have a great phrase, begin again. We can begin now and we can take charge and empower ourselves again. Drinking water. Please do not underestimate the power of drinking water. Our bodies need the water. We get oxygen. It helps with the I never can say oxygenation process. I can never say that word. But it helps even in the way that our brains respond. Our brains need water. Our bodies need water. The other thing is without enough water, we're not getting the toxicity out of our bodies. It's one of the ways that our body uses to help to be able to move things through. So I love to just gently encourage people, like if you're not drinking water, I'm just talking plain old water. I'm not talking about adding a bunch of stuff. I'm not even talking about the sparkly stuff, although that's probably a better option than some things out there. But water, just I start every single day when I get up. The first thing I do is drink 16 ounces of water right when I get up in the morning, even before coffee, which that's a thing. So water. Second thing is nutrition. And I know Christian Nichols is on. Christian is one of our great gurus on nutrition, and he helps us all to be better about our nutrition. A lot of the stuff that's out there, friends, is not good nutrition, and it truly is harming our bodies and it hurts our brain. And so I really invite people to take a look at that and what you're eating as business owners, why this is really important. A lot of times we get up, we're at our stores by 8 o'clock in the morning, sometimes earlier. Oftentimes we're working till 6 o'clock at night. If we have not taken time to plan out the nutrition that we want to do for the day, then we probably are not going to reach the mark, right? And you can try to plan out for a month at a time, that's fine. But what I'm starting to find with as busy as my schedule's been, I've got to almost focus as on a Sunday, I focus on okay, a general concept of the week. But then each day, I want to have a win each day. I'm going to focus on a win for the day so that if it doesn't go exactly on track, I've got tomorrow to start again. But when I do get to the end of the day and I've had a successful day, I can go like, that was a win. And also notice how you feel when you are putting good fuel into your body. I am I'm not a betting person, but I think if I were, I would say like if you fuel your body the way that your body wants to be fueled, and with healthy, good, strong, nutritious, nutrient filled items, you will perform better because your body's going to feel better, and you probably won't be as fatigued. You probably will manage your stress levels better. The biggest tip I got from Christian Nichols, who's also on with this call, is plan good snacks throughout the day. If you're going to get hungry, make sure you have, he brings in a bag every single day of healthy, strong, nutritious foods, so that if you do get hungry, you've got those available. So if that's one takeaway that might be useful for you today, thank you, Christian, for sharing that with our team and being able to do that. This is the Z's. Sleep is so important. And what's one of the first things that goes? It's usually our sleep. And your body actually needs to have sleep to be able to function effectively. Now, I realize everybody's a little different on the rhythm, but if you read any of the research, it is definitely going to show you somewhere in that 7 to 8 hour range. And I will also tell you that an important thing is that this is kind of a neuroscience thing. When you go to sleep at night, your brain is actually sorting. It's sorting what it needs, what it doesn't need. It's really trying to go. That's why I always tell people, if you had a big decision to make, write it down, give it to your brain, and then in the morning, you'll probably wake up with an answer around it, because your body is, during sleep, that is a lot of what's happening. It's getting rid of what it's not going to need, but it's also sorting through what your brain does need. I encourage you to have a great nightly routine when you go to bed at night. Just have, basically, this is what you're gonna, some people, they might start with, oh, it's a soothing bath, or it might be a shower, or some people take time to write before they go to bed. But whatever you need to do to get yourself into a beautiful nighttime routine, I strongly encourage you to do that. And also, it's about choosing, like, we want to be alive and living. We want to be, I'm going to call this the word active. Sometimes we say the word, oh, you got to work out, you got to exercise. People are like, okay, what is that really? Some of us like really enjoy it, and so that might look different, but alive and living is about staying active. It's about movement. It's about going and taking a walk. I love to walk with my dog. By the time I even get to work, I've done usually anywhere up to 3 miles in the morning, just because I love to do it. And now it's kind of dark. It's like there's nobody else really out there. And the dog and I just get to enjoy that beautiful time together. If you're a person who enjoys biking, maybe you like going to the gym, but it's maybe you like yoga. It's about staying and moving, right? Your body wants to move. And trust me when I say your body will thank you for moving down the road as well. Um, Prayer, sacred space, quiet meditation. This is really about that time that you can take for, I call it the quiet time, really. And it's whatever word here is going to work for you. We all have different backgrounds. But this is really about quieting the mind and just really letting it be at peace, be at rest, and just creating that time and space for it. And if you need an app to help you, like the Calm app is amazing. There's a few other ones out there, but I really do enjoy the Calm app. It's got a lot of great stuff on there. They even have these things where you can listen to, like, the little rainfall, or if you want, I like waves crashing on the ocean feeling. We do not have those waves crashing in Montana, but they do have a waterfall one. Waterfalls are one of my favorite things about Montana, waterfalls in the mountains. And so it's like it actually sort of mimics that sound. And it's, for me, it's just like so soothing. Time with trusted friends. And I really, when I say time share with a trusted friend, this is important, because if you're just putting time with people, it may not necessarily be having the impact that you want it to have. But when you are with someone you trust, you can have those conversations that you maybe aren't having with other people. When you are with someone that you trust, you can go to deeper levels, and you usually still feel seen, you feel heard. And by the way, if you are on the other side of the coin where you're the one with that person, please don't underestimate the power of listening. Most people do not know how to listen. They don't know how to be with people. And so just having someone there to listen and witness whatever's going on in their journey is so, so powerful. And this time cannot be underestimated. One of the things I appreciate most in a business setting is having those coworkers, especially like with our SBDC team, is that, like, when we go out to dinner or we go grab lunch together, it's such a great conversation. We're all encouraging each other, lifting each other up. And like, for me, that brings me so much joy, and it does greatly reduce my stress because I trust them, right? And then play and fun. This is my golden maverick. Play and fun is so important. It's good for neuroplasticity. Humor's good. All of these things actually help bring our stress levels down. This was on a 50 below winter day in Minnesota, and I think I already cleaned his whiskers off, but they were frozen when we got back. Now, family can be a two-edged sword. Or, well, sorry, I'm sorry. I all of a sudden look at the time like, "Ooh, I gotta hurry." I'm gonna see if I can go back to that one. Family can be a two-edged sword sometimes. So most of the time, family can bring our stress levels down when we enjoy them, spend the just right amount of time with them, and all the things. Now, then there's these things like we have these family gatherings, and sometimes it sort of goes over the stress line a little bit. So one thing I like to say to people on the family thing is families can help bring down the stress, and also let's make sure we have good boundaries, because we all know, I think we all know when we go over the line and all of a sudden it's like, what was I thinking? So find the just right amount, find what that boundary looks like with family. Positive affirmations. Okay, now I'm gonna give you guys a little thing on these positive affirmation deals. You read all these books and you're like, I am pretty, I am this, I am that. Here's the challenge with that. If you don't really believe that, it's actually connected to the neural pathway that doesn't believe it. So I'm going to invite you to write this down. There's a piece of my being that knows. There is a piece of my being that knows. So if something I'm struggling with is, I'm trying to think of a really easy one. There's a piece of my being that knows I'm a successful business owner. The reason that we want to connect with that is because if I know there is somewhere in my being that knows I'm a successful business owner, the minute that I add in, there's a piece of my being that knows I'm a successful business owner, it will actually grab onto that neural pathway and it will start to reinforce that neural pathway. If I'm saying I'm a successful business owner and I really don't believe it, guess where it's going? It's not going to the neural pathway that you want it to go to. If you have questions about it, you can talk to me later. This is actually some hot off the press research that's being done all around this stuff. And so as business owners, we want to be affirming the things that help make us successful. And there is a choice, right? Things aren't going to be good all the time. This is just reality. We can choose how we want to be in that situation. And I would way rather be in the happy camp and the joy camp, acknowledging that I might have some other stuff going on. And yet I'm going to choose to be in that place of happiness. And so I'm hoping that that starts shining the light on some of those strategies that you can use as a business owner. And I did put one more slide because there's a couple other things I want to manage. And Rich, I'm going to do my best to finish on time. So as business owners, one of the things that I really want to highlight here is that sometimes it might be managing our time, managing our calendars. Sometimes it might be that we need to bring in certain allies to help us with the business to bring that stress level down. What I'm also going to say is that it begins with each one of us as the business owner. And if we're not doing those initial strategies that we laid out, it's hard to move to that next layer of the business strategies themselves. And so what I'm going to encourage all of you is start with start with you. Then we go into those business strategies. Okay, how do I want to manage this calendar more effectively? Who do I need to bring in? Do I need to hire somebody for social media instead of trying to do it myself? Because that stresses me out. Like I mentioned, the tech stuff for me, like every time I'm talking to Rich and Kristen all the time, like, can you guys come help me with this tech stuff? Because I am like freaking out about it. I can go talk to people. So I can all that stuff. But then I get to the tech. I'm like, I'm super stressed out now. So that's why we have friends, right? That's why we have colleagues. And so as a business strategy, that just can be an awesome thing for you. And really, it is truly about bridging that gap from where we are now to where we want to be. We talked about our little Goldilocks thing. And it really truly is about finding those strategies and how we can bridge that gap for ourselves. Okay, we're going to get to the action. I would invite you right now to write down 3 things that you are going to commit to as a part of your stress navigation plan. And please feel free to, if you want to share what you wrote in the comments, we'd love to see them. And just because I'm sort of curious what other people are putting in there, but you don't have to. This is for you, right? You don't have to, but sometimes people like to share because that sharing and that connection actually can help us bring stress levels down. I'm going to whip through these last couple while you're doing that because of holding our time. So this really is about starting that stress navigation process now. We don't want to wait till later. We want to do it now. That beginning now, even if all you focus on today is drinking more water, awesome. Even if all you do is focus on picking up the phone and scheduling some time with a trusted friend, awesome. Even if you decide to meet with another business colleague that you trust to go through some ideas together, awesome. This is not all or none. That will completely stress you out. This is about finding those couple of things that you can hone in on now to help get you started with the stress navigation plan. All right, we covered our snapshot, symptoms, strategies, business, and the action plan. I want to thank all of you for joining. This has been amazing. I think I can take Q&A if we have time. I'm going to exit these so I can actually see everybody again. And then I think I got to figure out, okay, now how do I stop the share? Yep. See, this is what I'm talking about, guys. I can't even figure it out. I can't even find the button that says stop sharing.
Well, I wouldn't worry about it.
You guys can see it right now.
Last
It just
screen
looks
there.
like a thing in the front, right?
Yeah, for my
Like,
strategies, Deb, I'm going to resolve to drink more water and less coffee for my stress,
okay.
because I do know when I drink too much coffee, the eye twitch comes back. So that's old twitchy starts up again.
Yep. I totally get that for sure. Are there any other in there? Because now I can't see the thing because I can't figure out how to stop sharing this thing.
That's it. That's it in the chat right now. Does anybody have any questions for Deb? Feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat, or you can send it just to me in the chat if you'd like.
I'm gonna just put this down a little bit. Oh, there's Christian. Thank you. Oh, and there's Dante. By the way, that Christian that I was mentioning is the person that you can see in the screen that gave us all those awesome, nutritious things. Tianta, more water for sure. Awesome. Anything else? Rich, do they get my contact info if they have questions down the road?
I will, when I send the follow-up email, I will be sure to include your contact info with that email.
Okay, that would be fantastic. Just out of curiosity, does anybody feel like their stress levels kind of just came down, just sort of getting an idea of some of those strategies?
Yeah, for sure. And I had a question too, Deb. As business owners or bosses, are there any ways you can key into and try to have some insight to see if your employees are stressed, and what, as a leader, you might be able to do to help them?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, we all have stress, right? So the bottom line is, are your employees going to have stress? Of course they're going to have stress because we have stress. And I think one of the biggest thing is leading by example. Like I feel like I've done a really crappy job this week of leading by example because I got super stressed out on Tuesday. And also it's okay for people to see what the recovery process looks like, right? And so I think being aware of our own stress and making sure we're navigating our own stress, that's the number one thing I would say as a boss is we want to lead by example with that. And even if that means, okay, I messed up a little bit, I'm going to get back on track so people can see the recovery and what that looks like. The other thing is, I think as employees, as business owners, we can put things in place that can help this, i.e., breaks. Employees need breaks, right? Like they need to have time, whether it's even to go use the restroom or time to go get water or time to take a quick walk around the block. Depending on what kind of environment you have, it's very, very critical to allow time and space for some of those things. Some of the organizations I know, some of the new things they're even doing is, say they used to only get 30 minutes for lunch, they're giving them an hour with the encouragement of 30 minutes for lunch, but 30 minutes of movement. I'm going to use the word movement. And also, some places will encourage like $35 towards your health membership. So if you're going to join a gym, let's give you a credit of $35. And so that's another strategy that or if your business can't afford that, maybe there could be some kind of a trade agreement. So I was thinking like Aaron here. So it may not, your situation's a little different, but there might be a gym who needs some woodworking done for them. They might be able to do a trade with you. So you can get a gym membership and also they can get some woodworking in exchange for that. And the other thing, and Christian just reminds me about this kind of stuff all the time, but like we have to make ourselves a priority in this. And so if your employees are important to you, then we need to make sure they are a priority and making sure that they have I'm going to use that like a context or some form of a guideline around that this is important. Well-being is important. Your health matters. Does that help?
Yeah, for sure. I think so.
So I think there's just a lot of other, I mean, just think, oh my gosh, we could probably go with ideas and feel free to put other ideas in there if anybody else has other ideas. But I think the number one thing is we do lead by example, and we as business owners can put a framework in place to encourage our employees to be healthy. Like even simple things like when you do a potluck, make sure there's healthy options available for people. You know, potlucks don't just have to be XYZ thing.
Not just some cake.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we can't have those, but we don't need to eat 5 pieces of cake at the thing, right? Like,
Right.
like having a cookie isn't a bad thing. But if we go to the potluck and it's all filled with sugar, it's probably not going to do us well. But if there's a balance, yes. Oh, yeah, that's a great idea, Tianta. They do water bottles with their logo for the employees. One of the places that I used to do work for, they would do these challenges, and they would have this app that everybody reported in on, and you would, like, when you drank water, you'd put they had these little droplets, so you filled in your little droplets. I mean, people have to be honest, obviously, but then they had a movement thing, so your phone tied to the app, so it could track how much you'd actually moved, and you could see all your colleagues. Okay, some of us got a little competitive. That's all I'm going to say. But some people did. Some people just did it for the health of it. But some of us got a little obsessed
Sure.
about it.
Well, thanks, Deb. I appreciate
Yeah,
everybody
thanks.
tuning in. And don't hesitate to reach out to either myself or Deb. And then join us next month, which again, this is the first Thursday of every month. We're going to have Erin Townsend. She's a business banking officer with Rivera Bank in Great Falls. And she's going to be talking about whether you're a startup business or an existing business, what it takes to make a good loan package for commercial lending to banks. So it's going to be a really nice intro if you've never dealt with a commercial loan or the commercial business side of banking. It's going to be a really good session for that. So again, and it's whether you're a startup business or an existing business, I think that's going to be really informative. Any last words from anybody? All
Was
right.
this useful? Is
Yep.
everybody feeling better? Was
Yep.
this useful? Okay.
Thanks, Deb.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you.
Okay. Bye.